What do all these Fox hosts have in common? I'm going to read them. Tucker Carlson, Bill O'Reilly, Matt Drudge, Dan Bongino, Eric Bolling, Kimberly Guilfoyle, Trish Reagan, and Ann Coulter, who was a frequent guest. What do these clients of mine have in common? Dr. Jerome Corsi, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, Cliven Bundy, Laura Loomer. That just basically scratches the surface. This is an example of what I've been telling you for years, is that Fox News never really was a conservative network. Rupert Murdoch, not a conservative. He's really nothing other than perhaps having gotten himself embroiled years ago in allegations that he wiretapped the royal family with his papers in Great Britain. He bought his way out of that, obviously. But he's not someone who has ever really been in the conservative camp. He wants to make money. He bought the New York Post. They write articles unfavorable to some of my clients as well, if it gets them clicks and posts and everything else. Fox News is an unethical, it's despicable. It has always played both sides of the street. You can see in my previous book, my first major book, Whores, Why and How I Came to Fight the Establishment, how they would actually cut me off the air when I would go on with my clients in the early years because they didn't want the clients to have anyone to counsel them. They were in lawsuits and they wanted to catch them by surprise. They would also put my clients on without even telling me. Sean Hannity would call me up and tell me lies about things that were going on with some of my clients at Judicial Watch. This created a lot of bad blood and a lot of scar tissue. And ultimately, with regard to political matters in particular, I was also kept off of Fox News. But all of the people I've just read to you have either been blackballed by Fox News or fired. And in fact, this was confirmed a number of years ago when I represented a woman who had been sexually harassed by Roger Ailes named Laurie Loon. She was the most abused of all of the women. And who was the facilitator of that abuse? The CEO currently of Fox News, Suzanne Scott, who was Ailes' major assistant, would actually procure hotel rooms that Roger Ailes could then take Laurie Loon to and then force her into having sexual relations with him, with her job hanging in the balance. Despite the fact that ideologically Fox News was closer to everything I always believed in and my clients believed in, they did that for marketing. They did that for clicks. They did that for advertising dollars. This is a network, really, that has no ethics and no morality. And you can see this having come to light with the recent firing of Tucker Carlson. Now, Carlson's not really a conservative either. He's also an opportunist. I remember when I was on Crossfire years ago at Judicial Watch, when I was fighting the Clintons, he would criticize me for suing them for all of their scandals. He was the first one who did a profile on me as a freelance writer for Time Magazine. And while it wasn't bad by today's standards, it wasn't totally favorable either. So the irony is that there's no honor among thieves, as the proverb goes. Live by the sword, die by the sword. Have no ethics, have no morality, have no sense of right or wrong, have no principles, and ultimately your head will be on the chopping block at Fox News. Now, as far as my clients are concerned, my clients take strong positions. They don't back down. They don't mince words. They have done things for the American people. And just one example, Sheriff Joe Arpaio. Why is he kept off of Fox News? This is a real hero. You can see what's going on at the border today with the open borders and the drug traffickers and the sex traffickers and others who are flowing into this country, not to mention terrorists running across the border. He can't go on Fox News. So this is a lesson. But, there's really no alternative either, because Newsmax is not really conservative either. They would like to tell you that. The owner of Newsmax, Chris Ruddy, gave $1 million to the Clinton Foundation when he thought that Hillary Clinton would be elected president. So this is the sad story, is that the American people need a cable news network that not only tells the truth, that acts ethically, but also which represents the interests of the viewers that actually tune in. There is no such cable network today on the major stations like DirecTV. Unfortunately, One American News was knocked off of cable, and so too was Newsmax. Ironically, they were tar and feathered with regard to the Dominion lawsuit and other lawsuits as well. So it's time for some conservatives, if there are people out there that have considerable wealth that can start a network. If you do start a network that is honest, start a network which is ethical, start a network that actually believes in what's being said. And Hannity's a good example. One of the reasons why Fox settled for close to $1 billion with Dominion, the voting company machine, is because they didn't want their hosts to have to go under oath in a court of law in public. These oaths say one thing behind closed doors. Hannity was never a supporter of Trump. He supported Cruz. And he also didn't believe what Trump was saying with regard to the so-called election fraud. I believed it because I believe it happened. But these are hypocrites. Same thing for Laura Ingraham. Same thing for Tucker Carlson, who actually said he hated Trump with a passion. So this is what you get. You get fake news, whether it's left, right, or center. You get hosts that say whatever they have to say to boost their ratings. You get print networks and other networks that do the same thing. The media today is a total cesspool, along with the federal judges whose I talked about yesterday, in the District of Columbia and New York in particular, who do not represent the American people, but represent themselves and a special interest that put them on the bench. The biggest threat to this country is the dishonest media. And it's not just from the left, it's right across the board. There are honest people out there. There are good journalists out there in the conservative ranks, but frankly, those people are not being showcased on Fox News. So that's the lesson for today. Go to freedomwatchusa.org. You'll always get the truth from us. I say it like it is, whether it's to my advantage or not. The things that I say don't always come back to help me or to help Freedom Watch, but I have to say them because they're true. And I want the American people to understand the truth, because we don't have a lot of time. You've got a president who is brain dead, who's a criminal who took bribes from communist China, Ukraine, and Russia, who committed negligent homicide in Afghanistan, giving rise to the deaths of a lot of people with his actions. You got people like Fauci out there who, because of his negligence or intentional acts, giving the seeds of COVID-19 to the communist Chinese military lab in Wuhan, resulted in the death of 7 million people and counting, more than died in the Holocaust. And you've got federal judges who are making January 6 peaceful protesters get down on their knees and beg forgiveness for things that they don't think they did wrong because they simply walked into their capital. But yet they're then given prison terms because they rose up to protest the tyranny of the current regime and other regimes, not just Biden. This is a thing that's been going on for decades. The American people have no faith in their government. They don't believe their government. It's not their government to begin with. It's the government of the people who are running the government. They do not represent us, the American people. And that's why I wrote my book, It Takes a Counter-Revolution, Wake Up America. We are in a revolutionary state. Make no mistake about it. Get my book at freedomwatchusa.org. We suggest peaceful and legal means to bring about the second American Revolution. But if we do not succeed, there will be others in this country that go another route, and that will be tragedy. Consequently, go to freedomwatchusa.org, support our citizens' grand juries, our citizens' trials. We are beating out citizens' justice. The courts are corrupt when it comes to political matters because they're bought and paid for, these judges, when it comes to political matters. You can gauge with exact certainty how they're ruled based upon who put them on the bench. That's not true with all federal judges, but the ones in the District of Columbia, top to bottom, lower court, appellate court, compromised and corrupt, every single one of them. So it's time for us to rise up. The American people need to rise up. Go to Freedom Watch, contribute with tax-deductible contributions. We need to get bigger. We need to do more. Read my book. You can get it at freedomwatchusa.org. Read my lips, because what I'm telling you is the truth. And if you think, as I've said every single podcast, if you're retired and you just sit around watching Fox News and thinking, that's enough, I've done my part, then you're as guilty as the people who are committing the crimes against the country and the people. And if you're young or old and you're preoccupied with texting, sexting, doing whatever it takes just to gratify yourself, well, that fun and games is going to be over shortly, and you're going to have nothing. If you think the state of the nation today that I live in, at my age, is bad for these kids, And even people that are middle-aged right now, it will be a virtual hell. So now's the time to rise up before it's too late, like our founding fathers did in 1776, when things were far less worse than they were today. King George III was a Boy Scout compared to the people who are in control of our country today. The people who are in control of our country today are there for themselves. They're not there for the American people. And it's time that the American people recognize that we're out there on our own, we're on a limb. The only thing that we have is God, the Father and Son, and ourselves. And now is the time to rise up before it is too late. I'll be back tomorrow with another special podcast. Until then, go to freedomwatchusa.org, join our Justice League, contribute to our cause, save this country, if not for yourself, then for your children, grandchildren, and future generations. Thank you for listening to me. God bless you. I'll be back tomorrow with another special podcast.